In 1966, Formula One went through one of its most dramatic turning points. The governing body doubled the engine capacity limit, instantly reshaping the DNA of the sport. Overnight, teams were forced to move from the nimble 1.5-liter power plants of the previous era to brand new 3.0-liter monsters. This change set off a frantic arms race. Most constructors believed the path forward was clear: more cylinders, higher revs, and complex engineering designed to squeeze out as much raw horsepower as possible. The paddock quickly became a battleground of extravagant V12s, complicated multi-bank engines, and designs that looked more like experimental prototypes than reliable race machines. The philosophy was simple: win by sheer power, no matter the risks. But Jack Brabham saw things differently. As both a driver and a constructor, he understood that races weren't won by the most powerful cars on paper, but the ones that could finish on Sunday afternoon. While his rivals pushed toward exotic designs, Brabham took a quieter, more pragmatic route. Instead of chasing a dyno figure to impress journalists, he opted for a lighter, simpler V8 that emphasized reliability, efficiency, and ease of maintenance. Built around a modest yet proven aluminum block, paired with straightforward single overhead cam cylinder heads, this engine, later known as the Repco 620, was never designed to frighten competitors with raw speed in qualifying. Its mission was different: to keep running lap after lap until the checkered flag. What shocked the paddock was that Brabham's gamble paid off. In a time when failure rates were high and engines regularly blew up before the halfway point of a race, the Repco engine proved that survival could be just as valuable as speed. While Ferrari and BRM tried to outmuscle each other with complicated engineering, the Repco outlasted them. It turned consistency into its greatest weapon, converting steady race finishes into championship points. Brabham's philosophy showed that in Formula One, restraint could be just as devastating as excess. The rule change from 1.5 to 3.0 liters had created a massive technical gap. Teams that had spent years perfecting small, high-revving engines suddenly had to abandon their work and start fresh. The leap in displacement meant larger components, heavier blocks, and more stress on every part of the drivetrain. Suppliers who had supported the previous era's engines were unprepared for the new demands, leaving constructors scrambling for solutions. Some teams placed their hopes in ambitious new engines: Ferraris with its powerful but temperamental V12s, BRM with complex H16s that were engineering marvels on paper but nightmares in practice. Others, like Coventry Climax, simply stepped away from the challenge altogether, refusing to commit resources to an all-new 3.0-liter design. That decision left several constructors without a clear path forward, exposing just how disruptive the rule change really was. But Jack Brabham recognized an opportunity hidden within the chaos. He understood that if rival cars were faster but unreliable, a well-balanced, fuel-efficient machine could win through sheer consistency. His thinking was elegant in its simplicity: a lighter car that treated its tires gently, carried less fuel, and was easy for mechanics to manage would not just survive, but thrive. Instead of chasing the glamorous idea of building the fastest engine, Brabham aimed for the smartest one. This became the guiding principle of the Repco project. The new engine had to fit seamlessly into the existing BT19 space frame, a chassis originally designed for a different power unit. Brabham wanted minimal disruption, no wholesale redesigns, no costly experiments. The materials had to be proven, the valve gear simple, and the construction accessible enough that mechanics could repair issues over a race weekend without losing days in the garage. This approach was the opposite of his rival's grand ambitions, but it was grounded in the hard truths of racing. Repco's engineers embraced this philosophy. They didn't start with a blank sheet of paper. Instead, they looked to a humble source: a production engine block. The foundation came from the Oldsmobile 215 family, an aluminum V8 that had already proven itself in road cars. Hardly a glamorous choice for Formula One, but it was a pragmatic one. Repco reinforced the block with magnesium castings, added durable iron liners, and designed their own cylinder heads with simple single overhead cam valve gear. This was an engine built not to impress dyno charts with astronomical figures. Instead, it was designed to be built quickly, serviced easily, and trusted over the long, punishing distances of a Grand Prix. To many in the paddock, Brabham's plan looked cautious, even outdated. Why settle for a modest V8 when others were unveiling powerful V12s capable of astonishing peak outputs? But over the course of a season, reality proved Brabham right. Where rival teams burned through engines, broke gearboxes, and struggled with overheating, the Repco-powered Brabham cars kept finishing races. In Formula One, consistency is often the true path to championships, and the Repco 620 turned that principle into silverware. Brabham took control of the season by racing with precision, balancing speed with the awareness of exactly what his machine could handle. By the time the championship reached Monza, the title fight leaned in his favor. Even when mechanical trouble struck there, the foundation of the season, 4 victories and consistent finishes, remained solid. What elevated the achievement further was the personal milestone. Jack Brabham became the first driver to win both a world championship race and the championship itself in a car carrying his own name. That triumph wasn't just about bold driving or raw pace, it was the outcome of betting on an engine built for endurance, one that turned reliability into a competitive weapon. This dependability didn't happen by chance. It was the product of constant refinement and countless small improvements. When early issues with cylinder liners appeared, Repco quickly switched to stronger sleeves that could better withstand distortion and long-distance heat cycles. When cold oil caused problems during testing, the team revised clearances and materials before sending the next batch of engines out. None of these updates were headline-grabbing, but together they gradually trimmed away failure risks. Repco's lean structure made the feedback loop quick. Design adjustments could move from garage to drawing board within days, not months. Because the engine avoided exotic materials or overcomplicated parts, revisions stayed affordable and practical. Mechanics could be trained quickly, spare parts could be stocked without crippling costs, and race weekends could focus on setup rather than all-night rebuilds. This philosophy carried through to the track. A reliable start on Sunday mornings meant less strain on the clutch and gearbox. Unlike fragile engines that needed overly rich fuel mixtures to survive the opening laps, the Repco 620 could begin races close to its intended settings. That stability allowed tire and brake strategies to be planned with confidence, extending their life and giving drivers fewer problems to manage mid-race. Even the supply chain reflected the same pragmatic thinking. The core blocks were reasonably priced, liners and bearings were easy to stock in depth, and the few custom parts were designed with manufacturability in mind. The goal was never to create something unbreakable. It was to build an engine that failed gradually and gave warning before it stopped, buying the team crucial time over a long season. That, in practice, is what bulletproof really means. By 1967, the philosophy remained intact, but the hardware evolved. Repco introduced a new block and reworked heads that brought the exhaust inward, squeezing out a bit more power while keeping the engine's character of stability and smoothness. Under the BT20 and BT24 chassis, this updated engine carried Brabham's team to another constructor's title. Denny Hulme, with a season of measured consistency, claimed the driver's crown. The blueprint remained the same: start every race, stay within limits, and finish when others could not. But change was coming. That same year, the Ford Cosworth DFV arrived, rewriting the future of Formula One engines. By acting as a stressed chassis member and producing serious peak power, it unlocked advantages Brabham and Repco's space frame designs simply couldn't match. Its breathing potential set a new benchmark, and by 1968, anyone who wanted to remain competitive had to chase higher revs, bigger valve areas, and more aggressive timing. Repco attempted to answer with a 4-valve, high-revving successor, but this introduced fresh complexity and reliability concerns. The once lean and efficient operation now strained under the weight of higher expectations. What once was a model of simplicity and endurance became harder to sustain as the sport moved toward more advanced, resource-hungry technologies. That shift wasn't a failure of Repco's engineers, but a natural lesson in trade-offs. The 620 had been designed to win by surviving, and in that regulatory window, it excelled. Once the sport's priorities changed to structural integration and raw output, the same philosophy no longer fit. The Repco era didn't end in collapse. It concluded as a successful chapter, neatly defined by the rules and conditions it was built for. The results spoke clearly: 2 consecutive Constructors' Championships and back-to-back Drivers' titles.
The Repco 620 didn't intimidate its rivals with explosive horsepower. It beat them with quiet, consistent efficiency. Instead of crushing opponents on single laps, it wore them down over full race distances. That's why its story still resonates. Motorsport often celebrates breakthroughs that dazzle with speed, but championships are usually won through discipline, patience, and designs that minimize risk. In 1966 and 1967, Brabham and Repco demonstrated that lesson with remarkable clarity. Reduce the ways things can fail, make the remaining problems manageable, and let the driver spend his courage on the track rather than worrying about whether the engine would last. That in practice is what bulletproof really means. If one chooses to call the Repco 620 bulletproof, it's not because it was invincible. It's because it embodied a discipline, favoring repeatable processes over flashy gambles, prioritizing finish over spectacle, and turning modest engineering decisions into championship-winning consistency. It's a masterclass in how simplicity, when applied with precision, can become unstoppable over time.